Day 32. Today the wind was blowing really hard with the light dusting of snow, and the patterns of striations of flurries of snow kind of caught my eye. And there was this one particular kind of shape that formed that I thought I'd try to paint. And I'm using my not great paintbrush, so might be the wrong choice. And I was definitely right. It was not the correct paintbrush to be using. And another thing I've noticed throughout this month that I've been doing this is that oil paint is probably not the correct to be doing this, just because of how slow it dries and how it's mainly used for more fine art paintings that you're taking a long time on. And that is definitely not what I'm working on currently. It's kind of I have an hour per day, and this is what I can make out of it. The white of the snow isn't as white as I'd like it to be, but just because of the time I'm on, I can't really wait for the black background to really dry, so it's mostly gray, but I think it's alright. I think it looks close to what I saw, but at least in a painterly fashion. Day 33. I spent most of my day repotting one of my monsteras, and it was one of the plants that I've been gifted, and obviously I didn't care for it beforehand, and it was so rooted and overgrown within its pot that it just looked like a spirally mess. And since it was Sunday, it was kind of my relaxed day, and it was really nice to just work through and work out the plant from its pot and make sure that the roots were now getting enough oxygen and water. I think I'm just gonna try to paint the roots of the plant. I had this weird feeling while I was repotting this plant of how much this root system kind of felt like my brain at the moment, and how I was so overgrown and overwhelmed with all the different pieces grown over itself, and how just repotting this plant, a kind of really simple act, can help, I don't know, jumpstart something that leads to new growth or a new way of thinking. An analogy to describe how this painting turned out would be like when you're driving and you hit a pack of ice and you think you're about to hit the curb and you just barely turn in time. And then you're driving a little bit more, a couple minutes later, then boom, you just hit a toddler that was sledding down the hill, and your night is completely ruined. It was going all right, and it turned bad because I had too many mineral spirits. And then I saved it by adding white, and it kind of looked good. And now it's just a bundle of mess, or some people would call it abstract work. So, is it a masterpiece? Possibly, but definitely I didn't enjoy hitting that toddler. Day 34. Given the sheer amount of time that I spent in Google Sheets today, thought my only option really is to make a painting about it. So I'm gonna make it a little sane, and that'll be today's painting. You can tell how enthusiastic and energetic I am from spending my day in the sheets by how I mixed up the letters and numbers column. It's fantastic. And yes, I did wash my sheets today. Day 35. Today I took a class for the introduction of the table saw in preparation of my project that I'm working on. And so I'm just going to be painting a table saw blade. Day 36. At the same place that I was just at orientation for my table saw, there was a community night where a man of the name of Sergio was talking about his projects that he's working on, and what he mainly does is make pre-Hispanic older drums actually. I thought it was really cool and how he dedicated so much time and effort towards the culture around making these drums and how they're played and how they're actually constructed. So I thought I'd try to paint one of them. Now I'll put a picture up of what they kind of look like. They all kind of have similar themes, and one of the largest noticeable themes that they all have is this, what he described as a lightning bolt or an arrowhead in them. And obviously my painting's not as good as what it looked like in life, but there's always 3 legs and 3 symmetrical carved out I guess symbols that either stand for the lightning bolt or the arrowhead that's going into the ground. And what he explained was the lightning bolt was because back when they made these 500 years ago, they'd only use trees that were hit by lightning bolts because I think they're more sacred, obviously, but I can't remember exactly all the details. But I thought that was a really cool piece of design or thing that was incorporated in all of these drums. Given the fact that I thoroughly messed this up in the 4th quarter, definitely gonna put up a picture to make sure that you actually know what this drum looks like, because it doesn't look anything as horrible as what this turned out. Too much metal spirits on my brush and it just dripped and lost my edge, and then I overpainted on this lightning bolt part, so it is what it is. Day 37. The other day I actually bought a small ivy plant that I got from the gardener store a couple blocks down, and the reason I'm painting it today is because I didn't really paint it or obviously put on the canvas before, but I thought I saw it today on my steps when the sun was coming in the early afternoon, and thought it looked like its best, I guess. I think at this point I might as well go full Bukowski and just start drinking when I start painting, because of how pretty much pointless when I'm this tired to even try to paint. I can't even think about symmetrical and shading and things like that. Priorities, obviously, and this is not up there. Just one of the things that I want to do each day, so I guess it's fine for now, but could do better. Day 38. I got my last pieces of wood for my credenza, and I was just gonna paint them how they're sitting in my sedan. I thought it was kind of funny with how it almost exceeded the length of my car. But that's going to be the painting of today. I think it's quite funny how things progress. Like at the start of my idea to make furniture, like, yeah, I just want to make this stuff for fun, and then, oh, I have to learn all these different skills now. It's like the tip of the iceberg is truly something that exists, where tip of the iceberg was just like, yeah, I just want to make something, but then under it is joinery and how to glue, where to glue, proportions, ratios, wood type. Can already tell from back here, it's definitely one of my favorites just because how low key and dark it is. Day 39. Catching up on paintings because actually the day that I'm painting for, I realized I was sick. You know, you get that feeling where you're like, get a little scratch or some weird smell in the back of your throat. And you're like, God dang it. So I spent the whole day in bed, so I thought I'd kind of paint the patterns of my comforter. I don't know. There's nothing really to paint, so that's really the only thing I can think of. Becoming more of an abstract or an impressionist than an actual one-to-one of my comforter, but I think that's alright. I like how the fluidness kind of came out similar to how I see the comforter, so I'd say I'm pretty satisfied. Day 40. Today was the Super Bowl. I didn't even actually plan to watch it, but I had nothing going on and wasn't awake enough to do anything productive, so obviously Kendrick Lamar was at the halftime show, which I thought was kind of the highlight of the whole thing, even though there's nothing better than watching the Chiefs get beaten in the Super Bowl. But obviously this is, I'm going to be painting a Grand National or GNX headlight for today's painting. Do kind of dig how this kind of came out, and it reminds me of the style or proportions of a painting like my grandmother would have, where it's all kind of off kilter and weirdly laid out with the different squares that would obviously be similar but are weirdly proportioned. But because of how I'm sitting, I feel like I just kind of leaned into it and realized it, so I like it. Definitely struck a chord with me, and I think it'd be A minor. Day 41. I was doing some research on the city of Columbus, Indiana. I'm not going to explain why because it's a long story, but they're known for their modernist architecture, even in the extremely small city. But someone described the city as Athens on the prairie. I don't know why, but I thought that was just such a great statement or name for this place, because it's such a, I don't know, it's the contrast of Athens and prairie, and thinking of the two together, I don't know, something happened. So I'm gonna draw the North Christian Church, which I think is one of the coolest buildings in the city, on top of this. If you ever want a kind of laid back movie to watch, I'd highly recommend Columbus. It's kind of why I was researching the city. Watched it a couple years ago, and it's pretty great. So it's day 41. Day 42. I already put a charcoal layer on here just to see how it would look if I did paint after charcoal. But I'm going to be painting Barn Owl because I was listening to Deftones, and obviously one of their covers is of a barn owl. Or not a barn owl, a snow owl? I don't know. It's too late. I can't even speak at this time. But I started doing research into barn owls, and I saw that their Latin name was Tito alba, which was kind of, I don't know, cool, aesthetically sounding name. So that's what I'm going to be painting. I think this kind of represents why I wanted to do this project in the first hand. I don't intend to become a painter, but the reason I was so intrigued in learning more how to paint is the contrast of different mediums, kind of like this or today's painting, where I used charcoal and paint, and how it can give such a unique edge versus just using paint. And I intend to apply that to whatever mediums I'm using and use that as a advantage to kind of stand out and do different techniques of contrast or creating a piece of art. So I think I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, and I'm curious in the coming months if I can do more of this with different techniques and ways I can apply contrast. So I guess there's only one way to find out. Day 43. I'm going to be just writing the word loathe for a couple reasons. One, it just kind of fits the energy level I'm currently at. Two, I've been listening to the band named Loathe in one of their albums. Can't remember the name of it. Pretty good. And then three, the word came up in a poem in Leaves of Grass when I was reading earlier. So I thought, if it's gonna be this prevalent in today's overall energy, might as well write it. That's the loathiest painting I've ever made. Day 44. I went to Alex So's Advice to Young Artists gallery showing locally here in Minneapolis. And one of my favorite photographs that he had of this whole project is of this door that's completely blank and white, and it looks like it goes nowhere, but in the corner there's just a small snippet of a staircase. And obviously he describes what he saw and what that means, etc. in his describing video of the book. So if you want to go look into that, it's all on his YouTube, which I'd recommend. And the funny thing was, at this gallery, they had this photograph that I'm talking about right next to a door that has the same kind of wood tone that in the photo the stairs and siding has, along with being right next to the stairs of the basement. Day 45. Kind of just already finished this one, but I just sat down and started drawing lines and kind of came with this portrait-esque look, so not much else to add. Day 46. I spent the day walking along the Mississippi, and especially along where the Mississippi meets the Minnesota, which is a confluence. Obviously, at this point of the year, everything's kind of dead and decrepit, so thought I'd paint the confluence and try to show the two rivers kind of conjoining somehow, but we'll see. I think it looks like more of a cliff coming together, but I guess it still kind of shows two things joining. But here it is. Day 47. I was listening to a podcast with David White, the poet, and one of the poems that he recited for the host was "Everything is Waiting for You." And besides the fact that it's an amazing poem, one of the lines was, "The stairs are your mentor of things to come." And I thought I'd write that right along the stairs that I just painted a couple days ago. Super simple, but I think it really connects to what the meaning behind the initial photograph that this painting is based off of, and then also the connection to how I see that photograph, and obviously how it was said in the poem. So I think it works out. Day 48. I didn't do much today. It wasn't a very productive day. But the one thing I did do was watch a Jean-Michel Basquiat interview. So I'm just going to draw his known crown over this painting, which was kind of in his fashion. The thing about Basquiat is he kind of influenced me to make this whole painting project a thing. It was a couple days before the year started, and I was at the Minneapolis Library, and I was looking through the different art books, and obviously came across one of his sketchbooks where it was just a bunch of his sketches put in a book together, and I really liked them, and it kind of gave me the permission just to make the art no matter what it looks like. It's just part of you, and it can look good no matter what. It doesn't have to be perfectly shaded or this or that. So kind of for a full circle moment. Kind of looks perfect right by the portrait. Day 49. Spent the day in the shop, but I don't really feel like painting anything around that. So I thought of just painting an orange and a ginger root, since I made some juice this morning right next to my tortellini bowl. So that's what we're gonna do. Doesn't look too much like a ginger root, but some of these ginger roots I begin don't look like ginger roots either. Day 50. I was watching Alexander Calder documentary on YouTube. Highly recommend it. I'm sure it was made in like the late 90s, so it had that kind of soft, simple editing. I don't know. I dig that type of era. But anyway, I was watching it, and I don't know. I really enjoyed learning more about him. I knew very little, and I didn't know he made these large-scale sculptures, along with actually inventing the mobile. Like, he's the guy that invented what a mobile is. So that's what I'm going to be drawing today. Who would win in a fight? A Calder or an owl? I don't know, man. Day 51. Did a lot today. A lot of different mediums of work, but I think the biggest thing that happened was I adopted a piano. It was dumped on the side of the road, and I decided to bring it in since it was right near my apartment. So now I am a proud owner of a broken piano, which I might take in as a sculpture project, but it's definitely going to be a long-term project, and I'll sit and think about what I truly want to do with it, because I could disassemble it, fix it, I don't know, we'll see. Did the classic too much mineral spirits on the paint and it dripped, but good thing it wasn't a great painting anyway, so it's whatever. Day 52. I was on my way back from doing groceries and stopped to eat breakfast, and parked in a park where there was a bunch of little footprints going throughout the snow. And in the past couple weeks, I've realized how fascinated I am with paraphernalia, and I guess the snow steps, or the tracks in the snow, kind of act as a paraphernalia and to life and moving objects. So I'm gonna paint a couple footsteps throughout this corner. It's day 52 in the books. Day 53. When I was cutting a piece of my wood on the track saw, I just missed the margin by a tiny bit. And it kind of reminded me, when I was trying to think of what to paint today, of how we just miss something by just tiny margins sometimes in life, whether that's two people in a relationship and things don't work out for some reason or another, and maybe you're just about to make it work and it just didn't work, or some sort of event that might have changed the trajectory of things, but you just miss it just by a little bit. So I'm going to be painting a large scale of that figure that I saw across the canvas today. So can't see where I'm going, but well, I do really like how it turned out. I think when I was looking at the canvas earlier, I've had so many smaller drawings, it kind of looks, I don't know, a little weird, so I wanted to add something that had surface area but didn't obstruct the other paintings. So I think it serves its purpose as well as tells a story, so I'm satisfied. Day 54. I watched Nickelboys today at the main cinema in Minneapolis. It was quite a great movie. And I think one of my favorite scenes was the boxcar time lapse, and it was just so beautiful. And obviously, I'm a white man, so I didn't relate hugely to the struggles of people of color. So obviously, take that with a grain of salt, which scene I took to be my favorite. But yeah, it was a very beautiful movie, and I'd recommend it. Kind of messed up on the perspective of the boxcar because I don't even know how to really paint that, but I tried to paint the second scene. There's two scenes with the boxcar time lapse, so that one had like red lines flashing through it and everything, so did my best, but gotta work on perspective and everything with the dimensions. Day 55. Spent my day trying to figure out the CNC software to flatten the pieces of wood that I've gotten. And I kind of got successful, but it took me 5 hours or so just to switch the piece out because I guess the specific piece I was working on wasn't working. But here I already put down a charcoal kind of scribbles just because I'm going to be painting the computer screen and keyboard as a kind of mess, which it was a complete, I don't know, it twisted my brain up, so that's what I'm going to be painting. I think one of the most frustrating things is just when you hit that complete roadblock with a technical struggle where you just want to do a thing, but you have no idea and you've tried everything. It's exactly what all these scribbles kind of feel like in what I feel when that happens. Well, I hope now that I've painted this, everyone that's watching this will be rid of any technical difficulties. Day 56. We had a big kind of meeting with possible sponsorship for this art event that's going to be here in the spring. And we're doing tasters of the different product that we might choose. And it was one of the first days of, I call it fall spring, where you have a kind of warm front that comes through and it feels like spring, but we're not even in March yet, so it's like we know it's not really spring. So I'm gonna be drawing some little glasses of whatever. Now I don't know exactly what's going on here. This shows my inability to draw from memory because these are supposed to be 2 tasting glasses and they look like I can't even put a name on them. So it's just one of those things that I have to get better at drawing from memory. This is just one of those big fat fails, but just gotta move on and try to do better at the next one. Day 57. I obviously, if you can't tell, I forgot to turn on my mic, I think, so I'm going to be voicing this over, but today was a great day, another very warm day here in Minnesota, and I took a day trip with my family out to St. Peter where my grandma lives, and so I'm going to be painting / sketching my grandma. I did the first layer on charcoal, and I'm doing some other touches with black oil paint. Just an amazing day. You know, it's really nice with the different angles of the sun that we now have, especially with the warm weather and no overcast clouds. So saw a lot of stuff that I wanted to take pictures of but didn't get to because it's with the family and I can't just stop everything for my agenda. But yeah, grandma, talked with her a little bit what was going on in the day, so haven't seen her for a while, didn't get to see her at Christmas, so it was nice seeing her and just taking a little road trip out to old southwestern Minnesota. Really happy I didn't butcher this, because I was like, gosh, dang it. If I butcher this, it's going to be absolutely embarrassing, and I'll just put the pen down. There she is, Oma. And there's the painting. Pretty happy with it, so hopefully I won't mess this up again. Day 58. I got my first piece of lumber milled down to square, or 90. Or in easier terms, the corners are all 90 degrees, so it's kind of a perfect square where you can have everything symmetrical and lined up. So I'm going to be drawing, or painting, I guess, some symmetrical lines, or trying to. I thought of this idea. It's a big thing. I mean, it's been taking a lot longer than I thought, but I'm now at least 3 months into this project, and I just got my first piece of wood milled down to the correct usable material. So in celebration, we're making a mediocre painting. Well, that didn't turn out great. I wanted a straight line, but okay. Do you kind of like the minimalistic, one-dimensional look to it? Almost looks like it could be a logo. Reminds me of the Off-White logo, but I don't know, it's kind of cool because it's so simple and extremely mundane, but it does the job. Day 59, yet another day in the shop, and this time I was again surfacing wood, but I got to see the true grain and color of the wood that I was surfacing, so I'm just gonna show a very simple painting of the grain of wood. Probably should have drawn the outline of the wood and then drawn the grains, but oh well. Kind of looks like a Tribe Called Quest. Day 60. Spent the day on the set with the Kessler Productions gang, and there's always obviously something, kind of intriguing that happens, or funny, or something that catches my eye. But today, Timmy Schrader was on the sticks, and I was behind him, and with the negative fill behind him, and as well being kind of silhouetted by the white diffusion, I thought it was the most interesting thing I saw. So I took a picture, and I'm gonna paint it. So this is just gonna be the outline, and be interesting to see how it turns out. I've officially gotten to the point where I just need to stop, because it is kind of chest area got too thick, and then I fix it, and then I had to go over again. So I just gotta be content with how it looks, which I think it looks all right, and step away and say that's the end of today's painting.